It's the weekend, and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to November. I know it's already November, but last weekend didn't really feel like it yet. Welcome to Daylight Savings. Do you hate it, Mark? You hate it? No, I like daylight savings. I'm fine with it. I never had a problem. Hey, it's Jill on Money, gang. How are you? We are excited. We are ready to rock and roll. Great calls, guests, everything lined up. We're excited. And I'm excited because I have now invested a large chunk of my life in investigating the House Republican tax plan. Now, I know this is probably a stupid thing for me to do because, obviously, it's going to change. But I have to give you a number of you have written and asked, what is it? What do we need to know? All right, so here's the deal. Big picture, this is really a corporate and business tax reform plan with a side dish of an individual tax cut. You can see this by the numbers. The numbers bear this out. $1 trillion of the plan would go to corporations and businesses. $228 billion to individuals. $172 billion to estates. Now, here's the thesis behind the whole thing. Republicans and I think the Trump administration, what they're basically saying to us is that corporations drive the economy, not individuals. Now, that's sort of out of balance in a weird way. Think of it this way. I mean, if you look at spending in the economy, 2/3 is driven by consumers. But let me get back to the thesis. The thesis is companies use their tax savings, the $1 trillion of savings, and that will allow them to build and invest in new projects or give a pay increase because some of the president's advisors have said that this is going to amount to a $4,000 raise for American households. I don't buy that. So this idea that, if the economy is growing faster and the government brings in lots of revenue, it's all fabulous. But you know what? Look, this trickle-down theory doesn't work. So it may be good for corporations. You may get a little boost in the economy. But I just want to remind everyone that companies are sitting on top of a lot of money right now. And they don't seem to be giving us raises with that money, nor do they seem to be investing in anything. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't have a problem with our corporations not being profitable. They're quite profitable. What are they doing with their profits? They're boosting their share prices. Great for us as investors. But let's not pretend that this is some, kabuki theater that somehow it's going to get shoveled into our wages. That has not occurred so far, and it's unlikely to occur in the future. All right. Every time I go on the air with an anchor, TV or radio, what's the first question they ask me, Mark? Who are the winners and who are the losers? I know. What a unique question to be asking. Here's the problem with this plan. It is hard to tell. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you that if you live in a high-tax state like California, New York, and New Jersey, yeah, it's going to be tough because you will no longer be able, under the proposal, to deduct your state and local income taxes. That's going to be bad for you. But there are other factors here. And so winners and losers are determined on a case-by-case basis. It really is not just where you live, but also will you be itemizing deductions? They're going to nearly double standard deduction to $24,000 married filing jointly, $12,000 as an individual. How many kids you have? Mark, by the way, that whole idea about having a big family of yours, he's never had that idea. I just put that in his head. If you have a lot of kids, you might suffer under this plan. And it's not just how much money you earn, but how you earn that money. So we're going to have a lot of conversation about this. The plan is set to evolve. Republican leaders say their goal is to pass this legislation before the Thanksgiving recess. I don't know, maybe not. We've got a couple guests lined up for right after Thanksgiving so we can start breaking down what we know at that time. Right now it's conjecture, so I know. Oh, one last thing. You know the whole thing like, we're going to be able to file our taxes on an index card? Whoa, never. That's not happening. This plan is just as dense and complicated as the current system. I know, because I printed out. I have, by the way, terrible carbon footprint over the last 2 weeks. I printed out the plan, and it's hundreds of pages, and it is complicated. And it is, it's going to be really interesting to see where we land. Mark, I guess I have to keep updating the cheat sheet, the tax plan cheat sheet, as new information arises, but check it out at jillonmoney.com. All right, should I do the call now or should I keep yakking? Call. Let's talk to, where's Irene from, please? Irene is on the line from New York. Hello, Irene. Welcome to the program. What can I do for you?
Good morning, Jill. So I am a young independent mom. I'm in my mid-30s, and I have a fair amount of debt, but also some good earnings and some good savings. And I'm trying to figure out how to pay off my debt, save for retirement, and I'm also coming to realize that I'm also only 5 years away from having to pay for my older kids' college.
Oh, my God. That's a lot. I'm exhausted listening to you. Jeez. Okay. So let's back up a second. So you said you have 2 kids?
Mm-hmm.
How old are they?
I have an 8-year-old and a 13-year-old. So the older one is in 8th grade.
Okay, got it. And you are single, partnered?
I am single.
Okay. How much do you earn, Irene? Approximately.
So I bring in about $160 between 2 jobs.
$160 a year. Okay, great. Own or rent?
Own a house, very good 3.75 rate on my mortgage.
Ooh, nice.
And
okay.
my house is about $100,000 more than I own it, so.
Okay, so that's good, and you feel good about it. You're not moving anywhere, right?
No. It's a good school district.
Great.
Probably another 10 years.
Okay, fantastic. And right now, tell me about the cash flow. Just you've got this $160,000 a year. What are you putting away into retirement?
So I was just under maxing out this year. Next year, what I've been doing every time I get a raise, I increase my contributions.
Great.
So next year I'm going to be maxing out my retirement, and my employer doesn't match, but they just contribute 8%. So
that's awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, so hang on one second because we're going to come back to you because I just absolutely babbled on about the new tax plan, so I robbed you of some time. Let's come back to Irene after the break because, this is a really interesting question also because it sounds like she's juggling tons of different things, and we have to really be able to figure out what is the triage here. How are we going to help Irene order what comes first? So let's do that when we come back from the break. You're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL or send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your money.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. And our email address is askjill at jillonmoney.com. Mark has a lot of things cooking. Mark and the Mad Russian have a lot of things cooking for next year. Do you think that Joe doesn't like that I call him the Mad Russian? I think we'll have to ask him. Mark and our friend of the show and friend of the pod and friend of ours, Joe, are working on a brand new design for our website. and he's very excited. We're not unveiling it till after the first of the year, though. I want it really. I like those sort of New Year's things, you know. All right. Before we went to the break, we were talking to Irene from New York. She is raising 2 kids, 8 and 13 years old. She's in her mid-30s. She makes a good chunk of money and got a lot of stuff going on. So, Irene, you said you made about $160,000 a year. You're going to be maxing out your retirement plan next year. Your employer puts away money for you. How much money do you have in retirement so far?
So I have about $100,000.
Great. Fantastic. Okay. Now, you also said you got some debt. So let's talk about that. So let's go from highest interest to lowest interest. So what do you got out there?
So actually, my interest rates are all great. I just refinanced my student loans.
Great.
And so my highest rate will be 3.5%. And that's about $78,000.
All right. So student loans, $78,000, 3.5%. Got it. What's next?
Then I do have some credit cards, which I all rolled over into zero interest. And the way I'm paying them off, I should be getting rid of them in the next 8 months. So I'm not paying any interest on that. But this is my biggest monthly payment is towards the credit card.
But that's great, though. But it's going to be gone.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully within a year it'll be gone.
All right. So let's say we're talking by the end of 2018, there will be no more. How much is outstanding on that credit card? Did you say $10,000?
About $10,000, yeah.
How'd you get that? Because you make a chunk of money. I mean, I know you got kids, but
you know what? I only got my house about 2 years ago, so there's a lot of money going into setting up the house.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Up until this year, I had very expensive child care, and right now I've made arrangements that it's a lot less expensive. So
this is why you have to live next to your parents. Even if they're going to drive you crazy, it's really...
Unfortunately, they both passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said that to my sister once. I'm like, stop paying that babysitter. Let Mom do it. And she's like, Mom won't do it. Mom's not doing it. I got the only mother who doesn't want to, watch her grandchildren. She's like, I'm busy. Get a sitter. All right, what else do we have? We've got the credit card's going to be gone soon, so that's excellent.
The student loan, like I said, that's about $1,000 a month I'm paying towards that.
Okay.
I have the car that's interest-free. That's about $400 a month.
What's the outstanding balance on that?
About $10,000.
Okay, great.
Okay. So those are my probably biggest payments.
All right.
And the mortgage and the taxes. I live in a unfortunately high tax state and high tax town.
Yeah.
A good school district. So my mortgage payment with taxes and insurance is going to be about $2,300 a month.
Okay, but currently, just so we're clear, right now what's happening is you're maxing. Well, let's just go to next year. By 2018, you're going to max out your retirement contribution, right? You're going to just keep paying your minimum payments on the home mortgage interest, and you're going to keep up with that. You're paying a bunch of money down towards your credit card. So by the end of 2018, you're done with a credit card. And then okay, so how much is the monthly payment of the credit card right now?
Minimum? I don't even know.
What are you putting down on it?
I'm probably I try to put down about $1,500.
Great. Okay. So here's the deal. And I know you threw in the whole college thing, but can I take you off the hook on that? Seriously. I mean, I don't want you to worry about that right now. And I'm going to tell you why. You make a good chunk of money. Your kid's going to go to school. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. It is more important to me that we stabilize your balance sheet before you start saving for college. And I am not at all concerned about that, because what I think you should be thinking about is at the end of 2018 or whenever that credit card is paid off, then you are going to redirect that $1,500 into something else. Now, I bet because you're a mom, you want to put $1,500 a month into some sort of savings account, right?
Well, I was thinking I should probably do pay off my student loans.
Right. Yes, exactly. Do you have an emergency reserve fund?
So that's another thing. Yeah, I don't have that really. I have maybe a couple of grand, and that's
okay. So here's what I would do. I'm going to pretend. Let's just roll forward a year. Okay. It's a year from now. The credit card is gone. You now have $1,500 a month that is freed up. Okay. What I want you to do is for the first few months, I want you to put that $1,500 a month into your emergency reserve fund. Okay? Just for a few months. All right? And get it built up. So you're going to feel the reason I'm telling you to do that is not because it's financially the most prudent thing to do. It's because it's going to make you feel a little bit better. You're going to give you a little bit more stability. When you get, let's say you get, I don't know, $8,000 in there, then what you can start to do is take the $1,500 and you can put $500 into the emergency reserve and then put an extra $1,000 on the student loan debt. And so you're going to do both at the same time. Okay? And now what's going to happen is you will accelerate the pay down of that student loans. You will. It's just like impossible not to see how that will happen. So you'll be doing 3 things simultaneously. You'll be putting away your emergency reserve fund. You know, you should probably have, my guess is just looking at, your mortgage and taxes and your basic expenses, you're probably going to need 15, 20 grand in that emergency reserve fund. I bet that's 6 months of your expenses, right?
Probably.
Right. So we're going to build it slowly. And the student loan debt at 3.5%, it's not terrible, but it's certainly a lot. 3.5% is more than you're going to earn in your emergency reserve fund.
Right.
So I think that we want to get some amount of money in that emergency reserve, maybe at least 10. So we have you're halfway there. Then $1,000 a month on the student loan, an extra $500 into the emergency reserve fund. You do that for a while. And we are going to, the reality is that we want to be able to have you have some stability. We don't want you to worry. We want you to have money. I mean, I don't know what's going to pass in this tax plan, but you're going to get screwed because you live in New York.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to get screwed in that. And we'll have to see how it works out. But, I mean, obviously it helps that you're making that maximum contribution to your retirement account, by the way. That's very helpful to you. And we're going to wait and see on the putting money into an account for your kids because you don't have to worry about it. I know you wrote us an email and you said that the kids would not necessarily qualify for grants and aid. That's not true, actually. I mean, if your kid is a great student, if you make under a certain amount of money, and it's usually like $250,000, you can go to a great school. But you can also get aid no matter what. That's what we found out. And you still have plenty of time. And more importantly, we're going to pay down that debt, have that retirement account maxed out, put the money in the emergency reserve fund, steady your finances, get the kids smart enough to just sort of get on track to go to college, and then we'll figure it out. Don't worry. All right? And I don't want you to, and even if you said, because I know this, you wrote this to us, that you don't want the kids to have student loan debt. What I would say to you, and for every single parent listening, I know you don't want your kids to have student loan debt. That's why we want you to really hunt for the best school for your kids that everyone can afford. And if you need help with that, we've had our guest Kelly Peeler on. Go to nextgenvest.com. They'll talk to you about this process. Irene, you sound like you're on track. You're in great shape. You've done a great job. So you're not doing anything stupid. You're on track. And we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for calling. You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Have a question? Call anytime, 24/7, 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number here, it's 855-411-JILL. And our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And, look, it could be anything. We've been getting a lot of questions around tax planning and, the world's up in the air. You don't know a lot. There's only so much you can do right now. So But whatever's on your mind, we'd love to hear from you. Okay? That's the most important thing. So right now, we've got Lou, who's on the line from Oregon. Did I say it right, Lou? Not Oregon, right? Isn't it Oregon?
Oregon is correct.
Thank you. Good God. I mean, I would hate to make that mistake. How can I help you today, Lou?
Well, it's kind of a two-pronged question, but both surrounds an inherited IRA. It's actually three of them. My wife, through a trust, has inherited three IRAs, regular IRAs, as a result of the passing of her brother.
But it came through a trust. In other words, the trust was the beneficiary.
That's correct.
And then the trust now is being distributed, and your wife is one of the beneficiaries of the trust.
She is the sole beneficiary of the trust.
Interesting. Okay. Continue. How old was the person who died?
75.
Okay. Got it. Keep going. I'm listening.
All right. My wife is 65, but still working, intending to retire on her 66th birthday. And she is currently already taking a pension distribution from a former employer, and then will start Social Security after her 66th birthday, which at her 66th birthday, she will have earned $15,000 in 2018. Okay. So she's maximizing the amount of income she's allowed, I believe, against the Social Security before you start having the Social Security reduction.
Got it.
So we have two inherited IRAs, like I said, that are passing through a trust.
Right.
And the total value of the three of them is just shy of $80,000.
Okay.
What my curiosity is how is that treated tax-wise? Is it treated as ordinary income, or is she taxed on it, or is the trust responsible for the taxes? And how does that affect your allowable income against what Social Security looks at?
Okay. Many questions to consider. So, first question is that there are, when someone dies, you sort of have two questions around taxation. One is there an estate tax due? So the person who died, how much was the total estate worth?
About $350,000, and according to our attorney, there's no tax.
Okay, so no estate tax. Next question. How much of the money that's being distributed is going to be taxed to your wife? So when she takes money out of that IRA, okay, from that inherited IRA, that is taxable income to her. Because just think of it this way. The money was in an IRA. Okay, wait, I'm going to make a caveat to that. If the money is in an IRA and the IRA then was the beneficiary was the trust, let me ask you a question. Was the IRA distributed to the trust and it's now just a trust asset? That's my question.
I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you. What they did is they told us we had to open another account.
As an IRA, a beneficiary IRA account?
Yeah.
Okay, then it has. Okay, so now you've got a beneficiary IRA account. When the money comes out of that beneficiary IRA account, if you did it all at once, let's just say you said, okay, all the money gets distributed, $80,000 comes out. That $80,000 is taxable income to your wife.
As ordinary income?
Ordinary income.
Okay.
Now, that you don't want to do that, right? You want to delay taking out as long as you can. So this is what I think you ought to be thinking about. I think what you have to figure out is the deceased person was taking money out of the IRA account because it was over 70 and a half, right? So the required minimum distributions. Yeah. But there's something funky because when the trust is named as the beneficiary, it kind of it's a little bit different than when, say, your wife would be named as the beneficiary. So what I need you to do is I just need you to double check how quickly your wife has to take the money out of the IRA. There used to be a rule that's a 5-year rule. But the problem is that when your IRA goes to a trust, then that means that the ability to stretch it out over the course of her life is usually not there. So you need some expertise on this. And what I would suggest to you is this. Where is that new IRA going to be held?
Well, currently it's held with the original institutions. Our plan was to attempt to pull it under the Schwab umbrella.
Yeah, that I think that's a good idea. And what I would do is once you have that rolled over there, then what you need to figure out is whether you have to take that money out within 5 years. It used to be you do. I don't know that right this second. I really don't. I don't have that in front of me because there's something the way that when you leave an IRA to a trust, it is different for the distribution from the trust, and how quickly you have to take the money out is different because of the trust. So know this. Here's your big bullet item takeaway is whatever money comes out of that account is ordinary income, taxable income to your wife. How quickly you have to take that money out, that is what I'm not sure about, and that's what you should check with Schwab about when you get there, okay? Whew, all right. I think it maybe, I hope you don't have to do it. Maybe you could do it over the lifetime of the grantor. That's what I'm hoping. Okay, that's as slowly as possible. Thank you for calling, Lou. It's Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money. Here she is, Jill Schlesinger.
What you want?
You're back with Jill on Money. I just love this, Mark. This is the financial program that respects you. How about that? That's pretty good. 855-411-JILL. That is our phone number. And our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And when you send an email, guess what? It's going to be Mark who answers because he is my filter. So he's the one who does all the work. And I've just got a nice deep voice and an angular jaw, Mark, which a producer told me, which is what makes me good on television. It has nothing to do with my content. It's all about the jaw. Mark says that's why he got out of TV. All right. Let's go and take a phone call from Jack. He is calling from Buffalo, where our show airs on WBEN, one of our favorite stations. Hi, Jack. Welcome to the program. Jack and Jill show.
Yes. Hi, Jill.
Tell me what's going on.
Well, I'm 65 years old. I am a retired teacher. I had to retire. I am a quadriplegic. I want to know if I should pay off my mortgage on my house.
Okay. Jack, are you single or married?
I'm married.
Okay.
Yes.
And is your partner working or not working? Also retired?
Also retired.
And are you both retired teachers?
No,
Okay.
no. I was the sole breadwinner for the family.
Mm-hmm. And you receive a pension, yes?
Yes.
And how much is that pension on a monthly basis?
About $3,700.
Okay. And then you are you both receiving Social Security yet?
Yes, I get disability,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife gets a small disability. Yes.
Okay. So put it all together. How much money coming in on a monthly basis?
Oh boy, probably 50,
Okay.
$5,900.
Okay. And is that enough to pay all your bills? You feel comfortable with that right now?
Yeah, that's including, when I pay my mortgage, and we're basically living paycheck to paycheck, or
Yeah, sure. How about
yeah.
money? Do you have money in a retirement plan as well? Either you or your wife have money in a retirement plan?
We have a 403B
Yep.
of 78,000.
Okay. And some money in the bank?
We have about 10,000 in the bank.
Okay. How much remains on the mortgage?
76,000.
Okay. And is this a house you guys can stay in? I mean, just given your disability?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's totally been refurbished to suit my disability.
Got it. How much is the interest rate on that mortgage right now?
4.5.
Interesting. How much is the house worth?
About 190,000.
190,000. Well, here's the thing. That 4.5% mortgage. When is this house paid off?
In about 7 more years.
I don't think you should pay it down. Here's why. Right now, you are someone, as you said, $5,900 a month. It's covering your needs. It's going to be tight for the next 7 years. I get that. But I think that it would be a mistake for you to take them, either take money out of your cash flow and try to accelerate the pay down of this debt, or to pull money out of your retirement account to do so, because you should be mostly trying to conserve the money you have. And I know you want to get rid of this bill. I get it. But it will go away on its own. You're going to pay. It will get paid down in 7 years. And to accelerate that is putting undue pressure on your family's finances that you don't need. And so what I would say is this. It stinks to feel tight. I get it. But if you pulled all the money out of that 403B, we lose that liquidity. And, you may want that money. So I think that what I would likely suggest to you is this. You keep doing what you're doing. In 5 years, you're going to have to start taking money out of that 403B. It's going to be a required minimum distribution. That's going to ease up the cash flow just a little bit. 2 years after that, the mortgage is paid off. Then you're going to feel a little bit looser. And that's going to be good news for you. I don't think paying down that mortgage makes a lot of sense for you. I would avoid doing that. Keep doing what you're doing. And I think you're going to be okay. I really do. But if you have a tightness any given month and there's like a real need, you can always pull money out of the 403B right now and pay tax on it. What you can't do? Once you pay your mortgage off, you can't get that money back. Liquidity is the key. That flexibility is going to be very important for you. So I think keep doing what you're doing, Jack. Thank you so much for calling. And I guess I should wish your Sabres good luck. Because, we like hockey here at the Jill on Money Show. Thanks for calling. If you have a question, give us a holler. 855-411-JILL. We're going to get you on the air live. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. Our number here is 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Okay, Mimi writes that she's 52 years old. She's divorced. She's got $50,000 that's sitting in a cash account. And she writes, I am concerned about the future of my nursing care, especially being a burden for my children. I'm wondering if it's worth investing the funds in a variable annuity with a long-term care rider or a universal life insurance policy with a long-term care benefit rider. Perhaps neither is as good as just withdrawing the funds from an IRA when the time comes. I'm also concerned about the tax implications of all of the above. Well, I don't know about everything else in your life, Mimi, but number one is that presuming, I just don't know how much more money you have, but the way I think about long-term care is this. You're probably not going to be a burden on your kids because, number one, you're single. So you can always spend a bunch of your money and then qualify for some assistance. But more importantly, I think that pushing 50 grand into either of those two types of insurance products, which essentially ties it up and is very expensive, is probably not the best way to go for you. My guess is that you should, if you're worried and, there's some concern around long-term care, it may be worth it for you to talk to a financial advisor, a CFP or a fee-only advisor who can do some work for you. But if you've got a bunch of money and, let's say more than $1 million, you're probably going to be able to self-insure. If you've got less than that, if all you have is $50,000 or $100,000, $200,000, then you're not going to put the money in those accounts because you'll end up qualifying for Medicaid if you need it. So I think don't do that and don't worry too much. All right. Thank you for writing. And hey, everyone, stay tuned. We've got a great interview with Duff McDonald. Oof, he's blowing the doors open of Harvard Business School. 855-411-JILL. That's our phone number. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, which means it's time for Jill on Money, the show that makes money fun and just happens to answer all your financial questions. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to hour number 2. It's Jill on Money. Hopefully, you are feeling ready to have your mind blown because we have a guest who has gone through some of the most elite institutions and organizations and pulled back the curtain on them. And so it's one of those things you take it it's like, oh, if you can go to Harvard Business School, go to Harvard Business School and go get your MBA because that's what you should do. But our guest, Duff McDonald, says, whoa, slow down. Because after he has looked at a variety of different metrics, he's not so sure about what Harvard Business School is delivering. Duff McDonald actually has also written books about J.P. Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, and also did a big book on McKinsey. So that's where we're going to start the interview with Duff McDonald. His book is called The Golden Passport. And let's find out how the seeds of this book were sown. Talk a little bit about the first two books and how they became sort of I guess this is like the triptych of your work. I don't want to say that it's over, but let's talk about the first two books and how that led you to write The Golden Passport.
Sure. The Jamie Dimon book came about in a pretty interesting way. I was a contributing editor at New York Magazine at the time, and I was in talking to Adam Moss, the editor, in January of 2008. And I had a bunch of ideas that I thought were great. And he stopped me and he said, listen, just stop. If there's one person on Wall Street who we should write a profile of this year, who is it? And my mind went blank. And my wife at the time was pregnant, and I had just been in the obstetrician's office, and I was reading Barron's, which I don't normally read, and there was a cover story on Jamie Dimon in it. So I blurted out Jamie Dimon. So I was actually working on that profile when Bear Stearns happened And so the story became a cover story in the magazine, which, in the publishing industry, a good book proposal is always a cover story in New York Magazine or Vanity Fair. So my agent, who wasn't yet my agent, sold that with me then. That led to the firm, the history of McKinsey, because Jamie Dimon, notoriously anti-consultant, thinks that if a CEO needs consultants to give him strategic direction, he doesn't deserve his job. And one time I was asking him about consultants, and we'd had a couple of drinks, and he sort of unleashed. His wife walked by. We were in his library and said, Jamie, you do realize Duff's recording this, don't you? And he stopped, thought, and he said, I meant everything I just said, except for when it comes to McKinsey. They're different. So looked into McKinsey and realized no one had written a book about them, which was shocking.
Well, so how do you feel after kind of going through the world of consulting? Do you hold a view of consultants that's a little bit jaded because of your experience? Is McKinsey worth it? Does it matter?
One of the things that I think was frustrating for some of the reviewers of that book was I posed the question, are they worth it? And the answer was, it depends. But the depends is very simple. It depends who you are. If you're the CEO of a public company spending other people's money getting informed advice that is at least partly informed by what your competitors are doing, even if they're not telling you, that can help you get decisions by your board or by your employees, or come up with an idea you might never have had, or give you a cover to fire a deputy who's getting too close to, his knife is getting too close to your back, then of course it's worth it.
But is there something that approach brings to an organization? Why I'm being self-serving right now, because I have a nephew who's in the consulting business, and I mean, he comes home and he may talk about certain things, or my sister relays stories to me, but I really think it's baloney in so many ways. The things that I hear about, I'm like, that's just like you're telling me that you get paid gazillions of dollars for asking common sense questions. I guess some people need it.
McKinsey's in a unique position. It's kind of like when they used to talk about the network effect with eBay and stuff, like if everybody's coming to you, then you're the marketplace to go to. McKinsey is so entrenched that, for the large companies that hire them, a $10 million consulting engagement is nothing, right? And why not? So in that sense, I think it is worth it. However, to your point, is it baloney? Yeah, they hire MBAs out of, bring us to the Golden Passport, MBAs who know nothing about the industries that they're in, put them in, give them boilerplate templates, tell them to study something for a month or so, and then make presentations to the CEO of a company that's been in an industry for 30 years, right? They don't know what they're talking about. So the point I made in the firm is that there are 10 reasons or 15 reasons to hire McKinsey, the least important of which is the actual content of the advice that they give you, right? So they're in a unique position. But just to hire outside consultants to tell you what to do, these days, hopefully you have in-house talent to study strategic options. But if you're a giant company and, again, is it worth it to shareholders? Who knows? Sometimes no. Is it worth it to, the consultants who spend their time thinking they know what they're talking about? I don't know.
It's worth it because it provides them a lifestyle, but that has nothing to do with the business. Okay, let's get to the Golden Passport, the third part of your trilogy, triptych, whichever you like to say. And it is a massive tome about Harvard Business School. And at the end of the day, as I shut the book, I mean, I was probably 40 pages short of the end, I would be honest with you. But I mean, there are folded down pages. I mean, this is not just...
No, I can see you've read it. Or at least you did a good job of pretending that you read it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I highlighted it and everything. I came away with it saying, oh, my God, thank goodness I didn't go to business school, because it really does seem like the claptrap that I thought it was. What got you interested in Harvard Business School?
Well, as Jamie Dimon led me to McKinsey, McKinsey led me to Harvard Business School. One thing I learned in the McKinsey book was that the connection between those two institutions goes back decades, and they sort of mutually helped give each other credibility. When McKinsey started hiring HBS people in droves, and then it became a virtuous circle. And so that just sort of that led to my, maybe I should look into these guys. And unlike McKinsey, a lot of books have been written about Harvard Business School. But the one thing I thought that was missing from that canon was sort of an overall measure of the influence of, the central educational institution in business in the world, you could argue, and certainly the most powerful network of alumni of any educational institution in the world. And the question was the same thing that motivated the McKinsey thing. It wasn't, oh, this is a terrible place, I got to write a book about it, or it's a great place. It was, wow, this is serious influence. Let us look into it.
We'll get back to our interview with Duff McDonald in just a moment. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Want to get in touch? Call or email any day, anytime. 855-411-JILL or ask Jill at jillonmoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. Did you work your tail off to earn an MBA? Are you hoping that your child or grandchild will get an MBA? Of all the MBAs in the world, are you praying that it will be the Harvard MBA? That $60,000-ish cost of Harvard Business School. What will it give you? According to our guest, Duff McDonald, author of The Golden Passport, Harvard Business School, The Limits of Capitalism, and the Moral Failure of the MBA Elite, while Harvard Business School has helped many people learn the fundamentals of business administration, he says it is an enormous failure at delivering on the stated goals of its founders. More of our interview with Duff McDonald.
There are the superficial and the cynical interpretations of the reasons for its founding. The one that I think that resonates most with me is that when business became a career that suddenly interested the sons of the elite in this country, and as we all know, young men can be impetuous and they're going to do what they want to do eventually. To that point, none of the Ivy League schools had anything resembling a graduate business education of note. And the sons were threatening to leave Harvard, which was the stamp of the inner circle. And so Harvard said, we need to expand the circle. And because if our sons are going to seek business degrees, they're not going to get them here. We got to give them to them here.
And at the time, there were a couple of other choices, right? There was Tuck. Right? And there was Wharton.
Yeah, and Wharton was undergrad, and Tuck was like half undergrad, half grad. But all in germination stage. Wharton was the sort of furthest advanced. Tuck was the closest thing you get to Harvard. Harvard decided to sort of, dress it all up in intellectual finery, as if suddenly business had become a higher calling. That was the original sin for them, believing that BS. There are ethical and principled businessmen. There always have, there always will be, and there are unethical and unprincipled ones. But the notion that the study of business was suddenly something, akin to, theology, and sitting there wondering about what are we all here for? Like, the study of business is very simple. It's how do you run an entity for profit and hopefully not, devastation along the way.
But there was also this other part of it, at least in the conception or along the way, where there was a notion about doing right by more than just your shareholder. I'm thinking that when they first laid this out, they didn't say it's just P&L.
All right. So Wallace Donham, Edwin Gay was the first dean. he had a lot of hard work just sort of setting up the place. Wallace Donham was the second dean, and he was the one who really sort of laid the groundwork of the sort of intellectual foundations for the place. And he definitely had an eye to the responsibilities of managers to constituencies outside the company, to society. And that continued through the end of World War II, in fact, and sort of came at, America's moment of peak generosity to each other was post-war, but part of that was because things were so bountiful, right? It's not that hard to share if there's enough for everyone.
Right. And then in the 50s also there was this concept of sort of like the number crunching aspect of like that every business problem has a solution in math
and computers, basically. They were you basically brought in the statistics guys and tried to merge them with the business guys and sort of a faith in science that we can calculate our way to happiness. And Harvard actually stood outside that for a while. They were all about judgment.
I want to get to the 80s because it seems to me that if you had written this book in 1982, you would have a very different view of Harvard. And so, 1982, the beginning of the big bull market, and things start to change at Harvard. Talk about what the changes were, and in the more modern, sort of last 30 years, what has happened at Harvard Business School that gives you some pause?
So, post-'70s America, the American economy went through some wrenching changes, right? Volcker era, you had, overstuffed, lazy conglomerates whose return on capital was not compelling, and you had foreign competition, you had the oil crisis, and suddenly it got difficult. And that's when the LBO boom started, and the buying and selling of companies became a thing, and it was the rise of Wall Street. And in many ways, America was due for a rationalization of the way it ran its economy. But at the same time, we turned into a casino economy with the finance tail wagging the dog. And that perspective that American management had fallen down on the job had total merit to it. But you wouldn't expect the premier business school and teacher of managers and managerial skill to suddenly do a 180 and conclude that managers were little more than prostitutes, and the way that we had to motivate them was with the carrot of stock options, and that every decision should be made with the share price as its North Star. And Harvard Business School, in what has to be one of the most shocking about faces in the history of education, completely flipped on its head everything it had been teaching about managerial judgment, threw it out the window. And the hiring of Michael Jensen from Chicago was the sign that had happened.
It's so cynical in some ways that, like, you write a chapter about how they allow the professors to go out and consult, and that in and of itself, I mean, I know that everyone has to earn a living, but it does sort of dismantle the premise of your educational institution when you're running off and getting paid by XYZ Corp and then coming back and doing what with that information?
All right, here's a great example of that, and it's happening right now. The Indian conglomerate Tata Sons, huge, global, right? Bigger than GE. God knows how big they are. The Ratan Tata several years ago donated $50 million to HBS to build a building.
50.
Yeah, 50, to build a building in his name. And not long after that, Nitin Noria, who's also Indian origin, was named dean. Everybody says the two aren't connected, but,
Draw your own conclusions.
Nitin Noria, the current dean, sits on the board of Tata Sons as a nominee of the Tata Trusts, which is a public charity that Ratan Tata sits on. And just There was just a board coup where the current chairman was deposed in what looks like an outright corporate governance failure. And forget the facts of the matter and who's right, who's wrong. What is the dean of a business school doing on the board of a public company whose majority shareholder donated $50 million to his school that may or may not have had something to do with his elevation to dean? How on earth can he claim to be exercising independent judgment? He can't, right? End of discussion.
Yeah.
So, but that's where we are today, where it's like that can actually be happening, where any sensible person would stand back and say, "Are you kidding me?" And the answer is no, they're not.
We'll get back to our interview with Duff McDonald, author of The Golden Passport, in just a minute. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Young, old, it doesn't matter. She's here to help you. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
Friday night I crashed your party.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL, and our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We are in the midst of our conversation with Duff McDonald, New York Times bestseller. He wrote the book The Firm. He wrote a book about, the McKinsey & Company book. He also wrote a book about J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon. And his newest book is called The Golden Passport. It's about Harvard Business School. And one of the things that's really interesting is that way back when I was a wee lass getting into the business world, there was a sense that companies were formed not just to create shareholder value, but to actually exist in a community. The issue that I think McDonald raises is a good one. If the only reason that companies exist is to create shareholder value, like what Jack Welch had basically promulgated in General Electric, then that means that nothing else matters. And I think that's not a great thing. And nor does Duff McDonald think that's a great thing. So here's more of our interview. Duff McDonald, author of The Golden Passport. I guess that the part that was sort of most disheartening, besides the idea that you have to quantify every single thing, for me at least, is that the idea of participating in like the social fabric of society is disconnected from this pursuit of running a business. When they always say, like, well, my shareholder comes first, like, well, wait a second. Like, you're part of a community. You have a license to do business, especially for a bank, for God's sakes. Like, we're giving you the ability to actually grant these loans. We're giving you this thing. It's the same thing that I think about even with a network. We are granted licenses to air news and broadcast the news, right? But where is the responsibility on the other side? What we have abdicated, like our business people, for the vast majority of them, are abdicating their responsibility to society.
And the reason for that is severalfold. One is it's the easiest route to take, right? If all you got to do is get your spreadsheet out and tally up the numbers and be like, okay, have we satisfied this primary objective? Oh, that's one of Michael Jensen's great lines where he says that CEOs can't balance competing alternatives. And it's like, well, wait a second. Parents do that, competing objectives. I mean, parents do that every day. Just have more than one kid.
Right.
And the other thing is, it's like the problem with business school education, not just at HBS, but everywhere, is it has the opposite effect of what education is supposed to have, which is it narrows your mind. It narrows you into thinking that there is a one best way to analyze the worth of a group effort, and it is how much money did it make. It's like, yes, of course, things have to pay for themselves eventually, right? On the company, community, or economy-wide level, or else you go bankrupt, right? But the idea that because they have to pay for themselves, that is the only thing that is important, it's sad. And it's even more sad that Harvard gave this to us, right? These guys were supposed to be the enlightened educators in this country. And what they are, the same things happened at Harvard Law School. It used to churn out great legal minds, and now it churns out the bag carriers of corporate law, right? So this is not limited to them alone, but it's sort of a sad and tragic story that this business school that claims to be making the world a better place is actually just churning out mercenary people with narrowed minds. It's horrible.
Are there business schools out there that are doing it differently?
Yale used to do it differently. They were known for their sort of hybrid public-private model, but that in recent years has apparently gone away. I did come across one that I was really impressed by during the book called Presidio in San Francisco. It's in the Presidio area. And they have, instead of making sustainability sort of side note to your education, it's integrated into everything. Like it takes as one of the fundamental priorities of the company and also of communities and everything, sustainability of not just the entity but of the planet. And those guys have churned out a lot of the chief sustainability officers for some of the big companies, from Google to whoever. The question is what kind of voice at the power table those people ultimately have, but at least somebody's trying.
And when you look at the leaders, say, in the tech industry, obviously many of those people were sort of these cool mavericks, very creative. They may not have had managerial skills, but they created cool stuff. But you say even those kinds of companies are being infiltrated with the HBS types, which could lead to some pretty weird outcomes.
Amazon is one of my favorite targets in here. I love Amazon as a customer. It's the greatest, right? Yeah, but I do all my Christmas shopping there. But, that's a cost-cutting company, other than their cloud stuff, which is fascinating. But here's the best way to think about that. Steve Jobs did not have an MBA. Tim Cook does. Apple is bigger now than it was under Steve Jobs, and continues to mint money improbably against a sort of a more commodity-based competition. But when was the last time Apple blew our minds?
Right, 10 years ago.
Steve Jobs was still alive.
Right.
So that's what you get. Right. If you turn your company, and listen, no criticism to I'm sure Tim Cook's doing the job he thinks he's supposed to do, and the board wants him to do, but it's like that's the most stark and obvious way to think about it. It's like, what do you want? You want creativity, you want quality, you want beauty, you want surprise, or you want money?
Oh, thanks so much to Duff McDonald. Really interesting stuff. His book is called The Golden Passport, Harvard Business School, The Limits of Capitalism, and the Moral Failure of the MBA Elite. You are listening to Jill on Money, and if you've got a financial question, we are not the MBA Elite at all. 855-411-JILL is our phone number. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com is our email address. We'll be right back.
It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65. Jill Schlesinger is here to help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money. See, now I'm really glad I didn't go to Harvard Business School, Mark. Isn't that great? It does, it's so funny how all these things are self-perpetuating. You go to Harvard Business School and someone says, you're so lucky to have gone to Harvard Business School because you're so special. You may be special. I mean, it is hard to get in. But really, come on now. Okay. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's what Stephen did. And he's, first of all, hysterical the way he started this, Mark. I have a trivial question. There are no trivial questions on this program. Don't you get that by now? We love every question. And by the way, it's not trivial because think about the amount of money. Here it goes. Stephen writes, I have a very trivial question to ask you compared to what others may have, but for me, it's real. I have approximately, wait for it, $2.9 million in investments. 24% of my investments are in short and intermediate bonds and TIPS. Those are Treasury and inflation-protected securities. Even though it's only 24%, I still feel $685,000 is an overly excessive amount of safety. The other 76% of my investments are in stocks, large growth in value, small growth in value, REITs, plus a wide diversification of international funds as well. I'm 62 and my wife is 42. We don't have kids. We don't plan to have any. My yearly income ranges from $60,000 to $110,000. I'm self-employed. My wife doesn't work. He's $60,000 to $110,000. How do you get $2.9 million? Anyone got an idea about that? I think it's probably an inheritance. That's my guess. But who knows? I could be wrong. There's no way he saved $2.9 million and I don't know, maybe he did. All right. Taxable account. $1.6 million. It generates $65,000 in dividends and capital gains. Sometimes he reinvests it. Sometimes it goes to the emergency reserve fund. We max out my solo 401k and Roth IRA and my wife's spousal Roth IRA. Cash emergency fund, $50,000 to $80,000. We spend $65,000 a year. What do you think? Should we keep $685,000 in safety? Or should we consider a shift of some kind for some of this money? Ask Stephen. Mark, what do you want to do? I'll tell you exactly what I would do, but what do you want to do? You want to keep 24% in safe stuff? Mark wants to keep 24%. I want more money in safe stuff. I could not be wimpier if this is like a perfect teed up question for me. First of all, forgetting about so I get it. You're 62. You're probably going to die before your wife. You're going to leave her some money. I get it. But if your taxable account essentially right now generates the money you need and you're still working and you haven't even collected Social Security yet, why do we need to take more risk with this account? What is the payoff? I don't get it. If anything, I would say, I think you're doing that Thaler thing, that Richard Thaler thing of mental accounting, that you're like, $685,000 is too much safety, as opposed to saying you're only 24% in safe stuff, which is the way I look at it. And I think if I were 62 and my wife were 42 and I basically had all the money I needed in the world, I don't know why I would beg for something bad to happen to me. So, Stephen, how would you feel if we get a bear market? We get, 20%, 25% down. How would you feel about that stock position? How would you feel about assuming a big loss later in your career with much less time to make up for the difference? If I had $2.9 million in investments and I were 62 years old, I would probably have, at the very least, 50-50. I would probably have 50% of my assets, or at least 40% of my assets in safe stuff. So, do I think you should keep $685,000 in safety and short and intermediate term bonds and TIPS? No, I think you should keep more. But that's not the answer you really thought you were going to get, is it? Why are we asking for trouble? Is this a sign that the bull market really needs to have a correction? have we not learned lessons? Did you guys not listen to the Diana Henriquez interview? I'm not saying we're going to have a crash. But if you think that we are going to be this long into a bull market and nothing bad is going to happen, you're wrong. Bad things happen all the time, and they usually happen when you least expect them. And it is often when I start getting questions about, am I keeping too much of my portfolio safe? That's when I usually think something bad must be coming. It's not a time to assume more risk. Everybody's risk tolerance is different, but you've got to at least be aware of where we are in the cycle. Stephen, feel free to keep the 685 safer. It's not safe, it's safer. And just know that I think that shouldn't be 24% of your investments. I think it should be 40%. At least. Thanks for writing. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question like Stephen, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Joni writes that a friend, age 79, was married in 1959. The marriage lasted for 14 years. He was a policeman. He married 2 more times. She did not, but she did work in a school cafeteria for many years. She took Social Security at age 62. Social Security told her she was not eligible to draw on her husband's Social Security, his half of his rather, because the husband was on disability at the end of his life. I thought I'd heard differently from your Social Security guests in the past shows. What do you know? I love your show, Joni. Well, I just looked this up at the Social Security site, ssa.gov, and it says, if you're divorced and your marriage lasted 10 years or longer, you can receive benefits on your ex-spouse's record, even if they have remarried, if you are unmarried, you are 62 or older, your ex-spouse is entitled to Social Security retirement or disability benefits, and the benefit you are entitled to receive based on your own work is less than the benefit you would receive based on your ex-spouse's work. I don't get the disability part of it. That's what I don't think. So I don't know what happened here. I don't know if it's because maybe he was a policeman and there was some sort of Social Security carve-out. I don't know. But it does not appear, again, I'm at ssa.gov. It literally is a section of the site that says, if you are divorced. It doesn't look like she should have been precluded from claiming half of his. Maybe there's something else that I'm not seeing. I wonder if you could just go back with that with Joni. Maybe you could take her into a Social Security office, or maybe you could go online and check this out and ask a question that way. I don't know. It seems very strange to me. But thank you for writing. I'm probably not a great answer, but that's what I know. All right. It has been a great show. Thank you for listening. If you missed any part of it, go to jillonmoney.com. You can check out old shows. If you missed part of this show, check it out. Link at the top of the site, jillonmoney.com. If you've got a question, we are always ready to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It's called Better Off. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.